Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Matrix Dialogues. It's me, your boy, the host. Just hit our 1 year mark of doing this, so that's pretty cool.
Dang,
Been doing this for a year now. Yeah. Posted every other week for a little over a year. Haven't missed. Some episodes are kind of like this one where I'm supposed to post in 2 days, so it'll be a super fast turnaround.
Yeah.
But hey, like we know, I don't miss. I don't make excuses for it. So I'm gonna talk a little bit on. I don't even know. I'm gonna fucking clip that. We're gonna talk about on health, fitness, wellness. I don't know how to say your full name at all. Okay. So give it to us.
Full name is Torben Wischmann, Thorbra on Instagram. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Well, we're glad to have you on the show today. How you doing?
I'm chilling. Big chilling.
Man, let's talk a minute because I got some interns at my job. Just because of that phrase you just said, this lingo. I'm not even that old. Okay. And the lingo is changing.
Well, how old are you?
I'll be 30 this year in like 3 weeks.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, but
you're old, just not that old.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely old. But this, they've been giving me the lingo down. And I was like I asked them like, hey guys, how y'all doing today? Like, big chillin'. I'm like, yeah, big chillin'.
Because there's chillin', right? You're like, you're just chillin'. And then there's big chillin'. You're just chilling a little bit harder.
Yeah, chillin'.
Yeah. Just a little bit bigger.
I have my son is 11. Okay. So I've been picking up on his lingo too with the Riz and stuff. And so that's been fun. He hates when I use that kind of.
I mean, I remember that word was kind of making its way around for a good while, probably like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then died down for like my age group.
Yeah.
Got passed down. Now it's
the
11-year-olds. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. But they've been trying to, I can't even remember some of them that they've been trying to catch me up with the lingo.
Yeah.
That's funny. So just as soon as you said big chillin', because they always say like, no, I'm a big chiller. And I was like, oh, okay, what's that mean? Okay. And they're like juniors at A&M and stuff. So it's like, I was like, what the fuck is that? Like big chiller. Anyway. Okay. Well, we're going to talk to Thor today about kind of some bro science versus real science. We're going to talk about fitness training, debunk some bullshit. We're going to talk a little bit about some pharmaceutical stuff. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, mindset, faith, perspective, and kind of the things that this show is built on as well. I'll just get into it, big dog, because that's what I find does the best.
Let's jump into it.
What's one thing you think most people get wrong about strength training in particular?
And so strength training in itself is not to build muscle, right? Strength training is recruiting muscle. It's not like, yeah, sure, you can have myofibrillar hypertrophy, which is the actual enlargement of the contractile tissue in your muscle tissue. But strength training, the way that you see powerlifters doing it, is more so, okay, we have this contractile tissue. Let's teach our body and train our body to actually use it and contract all of it. Because out the womb, we only innervate, I think it's 60% of our contractile tissue, right? Even if we're like maxing out, right? Somebody new to the gym is not going to increase strength based on their increase in muscle. They're going to get stronger because they're actually learning how to use muscle. So that first, I think it's 4 to 6 months, their recruitment goes from like 60% to like 85%. It was some number. We covered it in strength conditioning at Tech. But that's been over a year since I've taken that class.
Yeah. So is it just kind of muscle recruitment and activation essentially?
Yeah. And but a lot of people think it's okay. I got to get big muscles so I can get stronger. Yeah, you'll get stronger because you have big muscles. But if you want to get stronger, you need to train your central nervous system to recruit more tissue.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even know that CNS is involved in strength training. Yeah. It's a pretty. I assume you're probably familiar with Mike Israel's work.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting. I find it collectively. I think I don't know. To me, interesting is just a good word for it. It's go ahead.
I like Dr. Mike. If he sees this, right? No shade. I think a big issue is a lot of his information is very nuanced and very hyper specific and does not apply generally But when he makes his videos, he makes it look like it applies generally. It's clickbait. It's YouTube. I get it.
Yeah.
Generally, though, like really great information, really great guy. He actually, or RP028-Strength actually funds the body composition lab at Tech where I went to school.
Okay.
So,
heck yeah. I would argue that I think a little bit more of his information is broad. Again, but like anything, it's like, well, what's the right way to segue that? And the way I'm meaning is, I think all of the things he's saying can be applied to the broad masses, right? And collectively, but as someone who works in data for a living, is what people forget in data is the idiots are in the data too.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, on average, if people went to the gym 4 to 6 times a week and lifted semi-heavy weight, they would see a 700% increase in muscle tissue. It's like, okay, yeah, that's accurate, right? Yeah. Most people on average, if they went to the gym more often and lifted heavier weights, they would get stronger.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But yes, then you throw in the weirdos or the people who don't know what they're doing or the people who are in there hurting themselves. It skews the data set.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of a huge component of what I deal with all the time is where to find nuances in data, and everything is somewhat hyper specific because though we are generally from a genetic standpoint so similar, there is still so much variance in the minimal difference that does exist between us. And so I think again, it's just interesting. I found his stuff so compelling just collectively. And from a breadth of knowledge standpoint of like collectively just gaining that insight of, like you said, like how to even understand the CNS being involved. Even like trying to take proper rest time.
Proper rest time is big. Simply just because of ATP depletion. During powerlifting training. That's why you see them sitting there snacking on their Sour Patch for 15 minutes before they hit their next triple. Right.
Yeah. Well, and understanding what I think something that I'm like pretty bullish on in the fitness space, because again, like you said, there's hyper specific focuses to it, but just knowing what area you're trying to go into. Yeah. Right. If you want to look big and strong, well, hitting triples isn't going to make you look big and strong. No. Some of the most insane powerlifters are 130, 140. You wouldn't even know they lifted weights till they go and then snatch 450.
Yeah, exactly. You've got your little guy, Kevin Wynn, who's like 150 pounds and he's pulling 800 pounds, sumo conventional. Who cares? It's 800 pounds at 150.
Yeah, 5 times, right? Almost 5x body weight. Yeah.
Insane. But then you've got your strongman looking guys who are like 350 pounds squatting 1,000.
Yeah.
So powerlifting is such a weird sport because you have these tiny guys and then you've got these just giants.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, understanding the application to, like, there's a difference in, okay, I'm just going to go, I need to go do this thing at a meet to pull this weight one time versus like in a strongman competition where it's like, okay, I need to move 1,000 pounds 500 feet, right? Like, so the size,
because strongman competitions are way different than powerlifting competitions. Powerlifting, it's squat 3 times, bench 3 times, deadlift 3 times, awards, right? Strongman, you've got all these different like events, like you're pulling cars, you're carrying these like 300 pound
those like 100 kg things over that like certain heights.
Log presses, things like that.
It's insane.
And you don't know what you're going to be doing at your strongman competition until you get there. Yeah. At least to my knowledge.
Yeah. I'm not super familiar, but I guess the point of that was just saying, whether you're hyper specifically training for a sport or powerlifting or bodybuilding, like the nuanced approach to each specific area will look different because the desired outcome is different in each avenue. How should someone balance training for size versus performance?
Yeah. Performance first, aesthetics second. I think if you are an athlete and you do compete, that needs to take priority over the way you look. Unless, of course, you don't really care about your sport, right? Because you have that, right? You've got people who, let's say runners, right? You're a runner. Let's say you're a runner, but you just want to get as jacked as possible, right? The extra tissue isn't going to necessarily help your running.
No, it does nothing for me.
Yeah. Sure. You look sick running.
Yeah, I do look pretty sick running.
Yeah. But
I'm still faster than people who aren't nearly the size of me. But there's definitely a threshold. I think there's that's what I tell anyone on the hybrid conversation is I'm in an insane aerobic capacity right now. Yeah. Like my VO2 max is over 60.
You have to be because of how much more vascular tissue you're carrying on you that just needs to be oxygenated while you're running, right? Your VO2 max is arguably probably at the level of elite.
No, it is.
If not,
it is. Yeah. It's an elite runner level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I made the joke and I talked to a coach about it, but the process to do it was a bit more complex. I'll just throw you the idea because it's not going to happen. But we were initially toying with the idea of basically trying to have me lose 75 pounds and try and make a run at an Olympic entry.
Yeah.
Because my aerobic fitness is there. You know, like I run, my easy miles are like 8-minute paces and I stay in a 120, 130 heart rate zone.
Yeah. Dude.
At 205.
You lose 75 pounds. Yeah. That pace.
Yeah. Cause now my power and everything. Yeah. So that's
going to be insane.
But the time to do it's tough because I would, you know, the approach to it is like, okay, simple, you're just going to lose weight. It's like, yeah, but I'm needing to lose weight simultaneously while atrophying healthily.
Yeah, exactly. You know?
So,
in your case, it'll be atrophy. You're going to lose muscle tissue.
Oh yeah. But that's the point.
And that's the point I was making as well is, do you want to be at that Olympic level?
Yeah.
Or do you want to look sick?
I'm just cool looking sick right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still performing crazy. I mean, like I in just over 2 weeks from tomorrow, I'll go to Colorado and run the hardest marathon in the U.S. There's like 10,000 feet of elevation gain throughout the course. The base elevation in the city in Colorado is starting at 10,000 feet.
Sodium bicarbonate, brother.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
But, the goal is to win.
Yeah.
To win first place in the race. Last year, winner was like 3:50 in the marathon time. That's like a high, like 8-minute mile pace, like 8:40, 8:50. Yeah. So the goal is to win because then I want with winning, I will be able to then go and run the 100-mile race that they have. And I want to do that in sub 20 hours, which is about a 10 or 11-minute mile for 100 miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's going to be nuts.
Yeah. I think the barrier, like you said, is knowing what you want. Size of performance. But again, like what's the end goal? If you just want to be insanely big as fuck, then like performance to, again, hyper-specific, whatever avenue you're in, doesn't matter. But then inversely, you know, like we wanted to get me to like 195 for this race. But there we got to like 201, 200. I was at like 1700 calories, still running 50, 60 miles a week. And just weight wasn't like, my body was like, no, I'm not giving, like, we're not, I was like 9.5%. My body was like, I'm not letting go of anything else.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, then we switched to like, okay, well, what's the goal? The goal is to win this race. So the goal is to perform.
Yeah.
So then we like upped food back. I initially like picked up like 2 or 3 pounds and then leveled out, but then my performance like jumped because I was actually fueled again and I was able to perform. So again, hyper specific to the goal.
Let me ask, are these marathons drug tested?
No, there's no like essential drug testing involved, but I don't.
So, I mean, like you could be like juiced to the gills running.
I mean, you could be, sure. I'm not.
Yeah.
I had a coach who was pretty big on peptide stuff and invited me to try some peptide stuff. I never did, mainly because I'm a little bitch and I don't want to.
How are your knees?
Solid.
Oh,
yeah. And I didn't want to do an IM injection 3 times a week to get enhanced cardiovascular mitochondria recruitment.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, okay, that'd be dope, but like an IM injection 3 times a week, like, I don't know. Like I'm a bitch about it, so I don't want to do it.
Fair.
You know, that's my whole thing. Like I wanted the performance. I was like, to poke myself 3 times a week just doesn't sound like a vibe for me.
I look forward to poking myself 3 times a week. Got another 3 years left till I'm 25 and then it's go time.
Yeah. This is one I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on. How do you train someone differently if they want endurance without losing muscle mass?
Yeah. So endurance without losing muscle mass. Well, avoid going over that threshold where you go from glycolysis or where you go from citric acid to glycolysis, which is essentially going from fat burning to burning carbs. Because once you start burning carbs, when you run out of glycogen, you run out of carbs to burn, your body is forced to pull from muscle tissue. The citric acid cycle and how your body burns fat for energy takes longer. It's more efficient, right? That's why we get 9 calories out of a gram of fat and 4 out of a gram of carbs. So once you get over a certain threshold of intensity, your body is forced to go into carbs. You have to essentially manage your heart rate while you're training. And the approach I would take, now I don't have really any experience training somebody for endurance like a marathon. Do I have the theoretical knowledge? Yeah, let me go check my textbooks, right? But off the dome, I would probably say managing heart rate reserve, and then it'll honestly be a lot of diet, pushing a lot more protein than just a gram per pound, because you just want to make sure it's there. Same with carbs. You want to make sure you push carbs. That way there's enough carbs for your body to burn. Nutrient timing is going to be super important as well. I argue 70% before training, 30% after. If you're training for endurance for a marathon, right, and your main focus is that marathon, prioritize the marathon training over your resistance training, and maybe some VAR, Clen.
No, I was just interested because that's like the life I live. And the reason I coach running as well. Yeah. And so in my experience, I can tell you, I still, I guess I'll just step through things you said there. Actually, I'll start from the beginning. I think most people are under or not quite aerobically fit on average. Most people are insanely unaerobically fit. Like that's why 70% of people can't run a mile. Right. So, which is baffling to think, but
well, how many people can't do a push-up? How many people can't do a pull-up?
I mean, I'd say a lot more people can do a push-up than can run a mile though.
Yeah. That's fair.
I can find 20 gym bros that can do a push-up right now. I can't, even though I'm a runner, I can't call 20 people that I know could run a mile straight.
That's fair.
When I think to me, in my experience of being able to stay as jacked or whatever this state I'm in is, without losing anything. It's mainly nutrient wise.
Yeah.
I mean, I still eat about 200 grams of protein. I've never really, sometimes I'll accidentally push over that just because I front load protein more in the front half of the day, and I'll get to the end of the day and be like, oh shit, I've already eaten like 180, 190, and then I still have to eat dinner. It's like, okay, so I'm going to be at like 220.
You prefer front loading when it comes to protein?
I do. Because I always run in the evening, so I like to put my carbs towards the end of the day.
Right before.
Yeah.
That way you have them.
So I have the training. Yep. For me, from a satiation standpoint, like protein for half of the day keeps me. I mean, that's what protein's going to give you, and then a lot of protein before running, it's just going to cause a lot of gut issue because it's going to
sit there like a brick.
Yeah. It's going to make you feel like shit. Found that out the hard way too. That's a whole component of running that most people don't even know exists. Is just again they can't fathom running for more than 7 to 10 minutes.
Yeah,
people now run for hours a day straight, on and off, and like your gut's important. If I even have like a protein bar or something, like, and I go on a run, even at something easy pace for me where heart rate's not getting over like 130, still staying solidly in like a zone 2 rate, like churn, I'm ready to fucking yak, heavy sweat, like increased heart rate because my gut's just disrupted. But I can eat, like a whole fucking bag of candy right before I run and feel fine.
So do you typically stick to more simple carbs like candy, simple fruits, or do you like going more the complex route of like grains, oats, things like that?
So to me, it depends on something where...
Or is that just, timing, I guess, because glycemic index.
Yeah, timing is key there too. Obviously like more complex carbs and like sweet potato or like, grain, like rice or something. If you have that like, at lunch or whatever, you'll still have some of that impact. Yeah. If you run at 6 or 7 at night.
Yeah.
But obviously if you're just trying to like, I need to put some carbs down right now or like in a race setting. It doesn't matter. Who cares? And also then again, just what can your body handle? I think again, there is a little bit of like when I guess the only thing I can assimilate it to is like when people say, what's a good run shoe? I'm like, it is just subjective to like what works for you, because like a shoe, I may say like, oh, the shoe is so great. You may try on and be like, wow, this shoe actually like sucks dick. Yeah. Right. Because like the way your foot pattern or shape or how it's too tight on your foot versus mine, or the way you strike on your foot, like it may cause. So
it's like the whole, what's the best movement to grow your bicep? Well,
the one that gets the most recruitment.
Yeah.
And the one that you can do in a controlled
the one that
manner.
You enjoy, the one that you can do without pain, the one that recruits the most in the best positions. And then also the one that hits what you're lacking the most. Because is it short head? Is it long head? Is it brachialis? Things like that. So it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah, there's about 100 other variables in that question that people. So in short, I think if you want to get more fit, the hybrid thing is popular, unfortunately. But if you want to build cardiovascular endurance, that's a part of your health.
Actually, no, man, dude. Hybrid training's out now. Everybody's doing high rocks.
Oh, that's still hybrid.
Yeah, but it's not like the lifting weights and then going on like a marathon. It's basically just
a more condensed
CrossFit
version. Yeah. It's like I saw this funny meme the other day. It was like CrossFit's like ugly stepbrother or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, the people who are doing this stuff at insane levels are still people who are insanely cardiovascularly fit. Yeah. Because to run 1K in 4 minutes is, I mean, you have to be insanely cardiovascularly fit. So to the masses who are just participating, hey, if you're getting getting active and you're being healthy, that's great. Mm-hmm. Everyone should, but don't forget that, strength isn't the only component of health. That cardiovascular fitness is a much, almost more of a driving indicator.
Arguably more important. Yeah.
Yeah. So to all my guys who are 240 and you could lift a truck, but I put you up one flight of stairs and you sound like you're dying.
Yeah.
Maybe get on that Stairmaster a little bit.
ACSM says what, like 150 minutes of moderate exercise a week?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But for most people with where their current cardiovascular fitness level is, that's just walking.
Yeah. Yeah. Walking. For me right now, getting to that RPE on the 6 to 20 scale is about like a max incline treadmill at speed 3.
Yeah.
God,
that shit just annoys the shit out of me. I love and hate it.
Yeah.
I want people to do it.
It's so boring.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like it's easy to just set it up, set your iPad there, watch a movie or something while you're doing it, call it a day.
Not in my question set, but I want to hear your thought on it, because I've heard many arguments against both sides. Which one's better? Do you lift first or cardio first?
What are you training for?
Yeah,
that's my answer.
Well, and I think first depends on if we're doing it in the same session. Like if I'm going to go get on the Stairmaster and then go lift, like, okay, that's probably not great. But if I run in at 6 a.m. and I lift it at 5 p.m., your body's completely reset. Your CNS is reset too as well, to a pretty active degree, unless you were just doing like some insane intensity on one end of the spectrum or the other. But yeah, I mean, again, in the same session, again, like what are you training for? Are you trying to cut or whatever? Okay, yes, then maybe when you go to your lift after your 30 minutes on the stairs, you're going to be a little less, like you're not going to have as much strength.
Yeah,
sure.
I would argue for general purposes, lift first, cardio after, simply just because you don't want your cardio to impact your training, right?
Yeah.
But if your cardio's low intensity enough, it shouldn't impact your training.
Exactly. Yeah.
If anything, maybe it'll wake you up a little bit. You'll see a lot of people do like 5 minutes on like a low incline, low speed.
Yeah. Just to get that blood flow going.
Just to get some blood flow,
get vascularity,
get their body like, hey, we're about to go exercise. Yeah. And I mean, even in ACSM textbooks, you see it all the time. 5-minute warm up before going to go resistance train on treadmill. Right. Is it necessary? No, not really.
Yeah, never
my warm up is start with a plate. Okay. 2 plates. Okay. 3 plates. Now we're warm.
Yeah.
But I'm also 22. I can get away with doing crap like that.
I'm probably the worst person. If you ever, one day we should go for a short run, whatever you can stomach. God. But a mile, even, hey, it's more than most people. My routine is, anyone who's ran with me knows, I be like, oh, how often, what does your stretch look like? Mm-hmm. It's like, knee to chest with a brief hold for about 2 seconds.
Stretch?
Yeah. And we're off. And and that's how I start a 20-mile run.
So ooh, crap. Hamstring cramp. I hit legs yesterday.
Oh no.
That's rough. So when I first started training, I was pretty much a hybrid athlete, kind of like you. It was lifting and running, and it was like distance running. It was only 2 miles, but
that's not distance.
Yeah. But it was something.
That's more than a lot of people can do.
But that's kind of where I came from. And so I still like every once in a while going out, just a short run.
Yeah.
But it's not very often. Simply just because no need.
Yeah.
If I'm in the mood for it, I'll do it.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, what are you training for?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm a power lifter that's trying to look good. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Got to know where. Let's talk a little bit about like what is bro science. Let's talk a little bit about what bro science is to actual the real science we're seeing now enter like bodybuilding or strength training and things of that nature.
Bro science is just kind of like man, you feel a squeeze, you're working the muscle, right? Things like your Sven press, things like your dumbbell pullover for chest. That's kind of bro science. Like, oh yeah, you feel it there, so you're working it. Things that like don't have any like actual clinical scientific backing that kind of just have been law, right?
Like 20 sets a session.
20 sets a session.
Some old Arnold style shit. I did 20 sets per muscle group per training set.
We can get into that because I'm a very big high volume advocate. Yeah. However, there are some caveats to that. But I think like the whole like, oh, there's three heads to your chest, upper, lower, middle. It's really only two.
Yeah.
And the like clavicular head is so small.
Yeah. It's really just one.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. It's just train chest hard.
Yeah.
You know, maybe throw in like an incline press or an incline fly during your chest days.
Yeah. I always tell guys who are like, bro, your chest is crazy. Like, what do you do? I say like, literally, I do 3 movements for chest usually. Yeah. And it's something inclined, something flat, and something
like
fly.
What, 9 to 12 sets per chest day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I tell them like something inclined, something flat, and something flied.
Yep.
And if you stay in that range, you
want to
formula.
Yeah.
Your chest will be crazy.
Yeah.
Right? It's so much simpler than, again, you can zoom in and make this more complex, but
yeah.
So
it doesn't have to be.
The bro science, the things we've all been, yeah, bro, like just squeeze it a little harder right there and you'll 10x your growth. Like, you're not, and that's okay. But so I guess what's if you had like a all-time ick of
Arnold
bro
press.
science?
I know what you're going to say. I knew what your question is. Arnold press. I've never seen the guy do it. Mm-hmm. It takes away so much from the actual, like, the movement that you're trying to do and what you're actually trying to recruit. You know, this whole like moving around in this like lateral
plane,
like
for no reason.
Like what?
I mean, it does activate some delt, but that's not what you're trying. That's not what you're stemming from. I mean, you can get front delt activation from just a shoulder press in general.
Yeah, exactly. The whole point of the Arnold press is grow your shoulders, right? This right here is doing so little for your rear and putting medial delt that you might as well just do a lateral raise and a rear delt fly.
Get better activation anyway. Better recruitment collectively.
Yeah. And then you're also able to put more into your front delt.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I think you just increase susceptibility. And anyone, especially, and I mean this negatively, but like a lot of women I know that have ended up hurt have been from that movement, right? It's because you come around too volatile or too quickly, and now you're just at risk for, if you're already doing something a little too heavy. Yeah. You know, the delt's not made to handle a load in that position very well. And so, you're going to open yourself up to injury. Have you ever believed a bro science thing that you later found out and you were like, oh my God.
Arnold press was one of them. I got scammed, right? The 3 heads of the chest. I got scammed.
I didn't get that one. No, the Arnold press one I had.
Okay.
God, what was another?
Peanut butter jelly sandwiches.
What did you hear on this? I'm new on
this.
Tell me.
Every high school football coach will tell you, oh, you want to get big, start eating a bunch of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because peanut butter's got protein.
Yeah, it's just got a lot of fat too.
A lot of fat, a lot of carbs.
Yeah.
And it's not a good source of protein.
No, it's not. But I mean, if you're trying to load on calories, I guess that's really the objective you're playing at. It's funny how these things are in the right lens, true-ish.
Yeah.
You know? Because I mean, if
pretty much all bro science is it's somewhat true, but then there's...
But once you gain a little bit of perspective to it, you can understand like what was the thing they were actually trying to focus on, which is like, in this case, it was just get into a caloric surplus essentially, which is derived from eating foods that are higher in fat. You can easily push yourself into a surplus and gain weight. Yeah. Which then by default, yes, you're going to, if you're then training at an intense level, you're going to be growing. And so, yes, you will get bigger. With someone like in your background in kinesiology, where do you think science is still catching up? And what do you think lifters already intuitively know that science is kind of just now like coming to like align with it on? So where do you see that there's a gap, and where do you think the thing is like people that was bro science, but then be like, actually no, that is real?
I had a conversation with somebody the other day about it. There was something specifically where I was like, we don't really have any science-based evidence on it, but there's reason to believe. It was one of those things because there hasn't been studies done on it, but it's not.
What was this in particular?
That's what I'm trying to remember.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. I will say we have a lot of like what the field is starting to really catch up on. It's just like the little things. The rep ranges for hypertrophy. There's no like evidence that, like this range will grow you more. This one will be better for this, you know? myofibrillar versus sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, what rep range, right?
Mm-hmm.
To my knowledge.
Can you for those people who maybe aren't quite as technical in this field, maybe break that down for them what that means?
Myofibrillar hypertrophy is the enlargement of the contractile tissue of a muscle cell. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is the enlargement of essentially the cytoplasm, which is like the little fluid inside the cell. And so they're both forms of hypertrophy. However, they are functionally different.
Mm-hmm.
The belief is that lower rep ranges target more myofibrillar hypertrophy. Higher rep ranges target more sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. And then the issue is there's no studies to actually back that up where they've done like biopsies to actually see, okay, which part of the muscle grew more.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you can kind of say maybe they go hand in hand. Maybe they don't.
Yeah.
But with kind of what we have is we have powerlifters who are strong as, I'm not going to say that word on here.
No, you're good. Yeah. We're an explicit podcast. It's
fair enough. Who are strong as fuck.
Yeah.
Big as fuck. They train in lower rep ranges. They, great. But then you've got your bodybuilders who train typically in higher end rep ranges, still to failure or close to.
Mm-hmm. Because I think those words have looseness to them. When you say higher and lower, give me like a parameter on what you mean by those.
I'll say for low rep range, 6 and below.
6 and below.
7 and below, because 7's for atrophy.
Yeah.
And then for higher rep ranges, I'll say 10 plus.
Okay.
But these bodybuilders are just not as strong as powerlifters. They're still strong, don't get me wrong, but they're not as strong. And yes, that is a lot from CNS recruitment, but they're not that far behind from powerlifters, right? Now, to get to the level of a powerlifter, that's going to take a shit ton of work, because that marginal increase to get to that level of recruitment, but they're not quite there.
Yeah.
You'll see a powerlifter who's 210 pounds, say 15% body fat, benching 405. You see a bodybuilder who's 240, 8%, struggling with 365, right? And yes, there is the neural recruitment side of things, but it's also, I believe, that they just don't have the same levels of myofibrillar recruitment. Instead, they have more sarcoplasmic recruitment. Yeah. That's also partially why glycogen depletion is such a big thing. You deplete a powerlifter of glycogen, he's not really going to get much smaller. You deplete a bodybuilder of glycogen, he's going to shrink.
Yeah.
You fill him back up, it's like a balloon.
Yeah.
And it's just that intercellular, essentially water retention, glycogen retention that's being retained in the sarcoplasm.
I think in these scenarios, the simple avenue I look at is, again, like there's two different approaches to it. So to argue if one is recruiting more or not, I think that's why the science is hard to pinpoint a variance in, because again, if I'm as a bodybuilder, I'm wanting to look a certain way, right? It's not about that's why I tell guys is like, hey, if you just want to be big, it doesn't matter how much, like the weight on the bar is not the goal anymore. It
does not matter.
Right. Because if it's not actually making you bigger, then it's just like, it's you. That's, I think, to me, that's where we get into like ego lifting. But yeah, cool. Like you halfway kind of sort of repped something for 5 plates for like 2.5, 3 reps. And you did 3 drop sets of 2 reps each time. Like, but you're no bigger. Right? Versus like, okay, yeah, you did 8 to 12 reps, very controlled, very intentional, deep stretch, like full ROM. Like, yeah, okay. So it's like, but again, it's to get as much blood to fill up that, to get as much activation out of that muscle group as possible. Versus then on the flip side for a power lifter, it's like, it's to maximize force and as much explosive power as possible in a short time range. So it's like, and inversely with me, if you said, hey, Austin, run a mile as fast as you can, I can bang out like a low 5-minute mile for 1 lap.
Yeah, 1 lap.
Right. But then he said, now run a marathon. It's like, okay, well, I can do it in like 3 hours, right? Which is still fast. But like that, my mile time there, what we're measuring to the same is like, I could do a 5:10, 5:20 mile for 1 mile, but I can do a 6:50 mile for 25 miles. Right. So it's like, again, as we see here, like that's the way it just occurs physiologically, right?
Yeah.
Even like when you're doing a harder interval of something and running, like I can run for a really, really fast pace for like my sprint in 10 seconds is like insane, right? But then again, like as you add time to that cumulative effort, the intensity is going to fall. So I think that's why there's probably some gaps in that data that make it hard to measure, because it's like, again, like the end goal is different. So of course the approach to
there's a lot of variables that you have to account for that are just kind of hard to control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To get proper data on like, is one actually doing more or not? Is one more actually generating more hypertrophy collectively or not? So
one of Brad Schoenfeld's PhD students actually wrote his thesis on pre-exhaustion. It's a little off topic, but I'm really interested to see how the results of his findings are going to align with, is pre-exhaustion a good thing? Is it worth it or not?
I guess what is his test case against? Is he advocating for
or against? We don't know yet. The paper hasn't been published.
Okay.
Yeah. There should be like a preview paper.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because that's just so limited in information.
Yeah. There should be a preview paper coming pretty soon.
On if the argument's for or against.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too.
Okay.
Because, I'll have times when I enjoy to pre-exhaust. I'll have times where I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to see if it will actually increase growth.
I'd struggle to see how it would, but I mean, we'll see.
But at least now we'll have concrete evidence, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause
I say concrete, but yeah.
Some data to align with something at least. Okay. And then last one on this one, what's your take on the best splits, whether that be push pull legs, upper lower? What is the bro science say versus what the actual?
The best split according to science is the bro split.
Is it really actually?
No,
oh, okay.
No.
I was like, wow. Okay.
So when trying to design a split, there is no perfect split. There, even science, because you want to make sure you hit volume, right? Yep. You want to make sure you hit frequency. You want to make sure that you're recovering between sessions.
Yep.
Ideally it's full body every single day, right? With no rest days.
Yeah.
Right. The issue there though is, you're just not going to recover from session to session. But the frequency's there and the volume's there. With push-pull legs, you've got a decent frequency with good volume. Okay, great. A lot of people have been pushing the upper-lower split right now in the unemployed science-based lifter community, right?
Unemployed.
And so they've been pushing kind of okay, upper-lower rest, upper-lower rest, upper-lower rest, things like that. Frequencies there. I fail to see how volume's going to be there.
I think because the frequency, you're going to naturally recruit the volume with time.
Huh?
I think because of the frequency being what it is, if you're looking at variables to control, if you can't, how can you maintain volume? I was like, well, you can up frequency and that'll shift.
But there's only so much you can. Really
no, I know, but I'm saying, but if you're doing that essentially every 2 days, you're essentially re-hitting the same thing. I mean,
well, but also your upper days have to be a little bit shorter, right? Because once you hit a certain amount of sets, you just start running into junk volume and just sets that are not productive. You're too tired to really do anything. And then I would say 5-day split. And one of my clients is actually, 2 of my clients are on this. It's the push, pull legs, upper, lower. If you've got 6 days to train, push, pull legs, or some variant thereof. If you have 4 days to train, upper, lower, and then upper, lower. If you have 3 or less, full body. Yeah.
And again, the subjectiveness I would offer to anyone there is again, what are you training for? The goal is to get more healthy. You just want to be overall metabolically more healthy. So you want to have a little bit of definition. Maybe you're overweight. You want to just lose some weight. Just getting in the gym in general will help, right? So I think, again, it's anyone listening to this going, well, I'm some overweight guy, or I'm somebody who's not super healthy, or I'm someone who's maybe I'm more in an elite level of fitness. So that answer doesn't, again, this is where you are realizing that you are part of the outliers in those things now, right? So it is subjective. Something you didn't touch on a lot, that your post that I mentioned the other day, so I'm going to bring it back to on that is intensity. Yeah. We're talking about these frequency and volume, measures, but I think also what is inevitable variable that can't be ignored there is intensity.
train hard. If your eyes aren't popping out of your sockets every set, right? You should, if you want to grow, right, and not just be healthier, train within 2 reps of failure, right? Within 2 sets of you're pushing and pushing and pushing and nothing is moving. At least 2 reps before that, if not to that. The issue with pushing all the way to failure is obviously injury risk. I won't tell people to do it every single set all the time because you don't have to. Yeah, you're kind of leaving a little bit of gains on the table, but it's so minuscule that it's not going to make that much of a difference, even in 3 years' time, maybe 10 years, you know? And then, I mean, volume. You want the more volume you can push, the more you're going to be able to grow. Every set after a certain threshold of, I would argue about 16, 17, 18 sets a week, right? For a natural, you're going to start seeing less results from each set after that.
Yeah.
But there's still results, you know, diminishing returns are still returns. So, you know, if you want to be in the gym for 4 or 5 hours and grow 16% instead of being in the gym for 2 hours and grow 12%, have at it. Right. Yeah. Nothing's being left on the table. And, I personally,
I've seen holistically, it's rare that even with myself and in my own training to get to where I think I've gotten in the last probably year and a half or so prior to like, I'd say I've been just give people a proper timeline of expectation here. I'd say I've been truly like locked in, committed for like about 5 years now.
Yeah.
But I'd say really in the last year and a half, I've seen 80% of the growth, 80% of the growth now, because before my intensity was like lacking. Yeah. I'd be like, this is a hard workout, but I was leaving like significantly much. Like
you're leaving a lot on the table, just in
a lot. Intensity. And then got a different coach a couple of years ago. I'd say probably almost 2 years ago. Shout out Ben, and really helped put me on to like, no, like you should probably have that weight then. And I was like, no, like, I mean, I feel good there. But he's like, no. Like if you're hitting that for 10, like the last 5 weeks in a row. Yeah. Like, you know, like but you're telling me you want to be stronger, you want to be bigger. Like, well, you got to pick up heavier weight now.
A big misconception in training is that you progressive overload to grow. No, progressive overload is a result of growth. Because you got bigger, you can now push harder rather than you have to push harder to grow more. That's why once you hit the upper end of your rep range, that's why I don't like write my clients like certain reps, like, okay, 8 reps, 10 reps hits. I give them a range. Once they get to the top of that range, up the weight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think it's the craziness here that maybe you don't know about because you're not super big into this side of it, but I've offered it to people as an interesting caveat is running works exactly the same way.
Yeah, no,
so,
it does.
You know, like when I, as a result of me getting more cardiovascularly fit, the pace has increased. Doesn't mean that I'm trying that much harder. I'm making the same effort I did when I was running at an 11-minute pace. Now that pace is just 8 minutes because I've become more fit.
Yeah.
Right. And now again, that's what, but in those harder sessions, like where I'm doing interval training and I'm having to push hard, like, that pace is also like linearly moved forward. And that is still a very hard effort. But again, as a result, very hard 3 years ago versus very hard now, those paces look holistically different. Right. So there is components of, you know, very hard efforts, but also mixed in with what is a normal effort also is going to change with time. Let's talk a little bit about some of the pharmaceutical stuff. And
fun stuff.
Yeah, the fun stuff. I guess it's fun stuff. I have a lot to add on this, but I want to see where you're going to go with it first. I guess let's kind of talk about the kind of key, the couple different areas that exist for muscle building drugs. Versus, I guess we can start in a simple one on the difference between testosterone to actual steroid, from a anabolic standpoint and benefit to then, I guess, moving into like non-androgenic things. So
testosterone itself, right? Obviously male sex hormone. It's lipophilic, so it needs cholesterol to be produced, meaning make sure you bump your fats if you're a natural, to keep your test levels up. It has a lot of health benefits, which if you overuse, it now has a lot of health effects that are not good for you, especially in the cardiovascular health area. It's not as bad as they used to think. I think the FDA is actually getting rid of a lot of the like labels about how bad testosterone is for human use, because it's actually not that bad. Yeah. Now, don't go taking testosterone because the FDA said it's okay, right? If you have healthy levels, there's no need to. Yep. I think, however, if you are hypogonadal, let's say you're 40, 50, right?
Yeah, I think I make the argument if you're, regardless of age. Yeah. I mean, because especially for men, it's the most important hormone we have. Yeah. So from just a mental health, body composition.
No, I would actually go as far as arguing the most important hormone we have is insulin.
Okay, fair enough.
But testosterone's right up there.
I don't know. I just make the argument for any age. If you're, I think if you're sub 300, nanograms per deciliter,
that's a problem.
If you're 27 and you're already there,
Well, I have two buddies. Both of them tested sub 250 at 21 years old. 20 years old. Both of them took some enclomiphene to bring their levels back up naturally. One of them tested at 550-ish.
That's a good range.
And that's post-site, coming off, giving it a couple weeks. The other one got up to 800.
That's nutty.
And he started at 217.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think because there's a lot of, before I make this segue that could go for hours in itself, there's testosterone is such a sensitive hormone as well, right? Lack of sleep, too intensified training, too much time in the sauna, too much, there's so many different variables, the way you eat, that can kill your testosterone. I mean, even especially for us, because as men our hormone cycle is 24 hours versus women, it's 30 days. So
in the morning when we wake up.
That's why if you by just reducing your sleep to 6 hours of sleep at night, you cut your testosterone production by 25%.
Yeah.
And how many guys, especially young guys in their early 20s, was up late, either on the phone or 4 or 5 hours. Oh, I'm here, bro. I'm in the gym. It's well, you'd be even better if you just got an extra 2 or 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, even me, I'm pretty bullish on my sleep, and I'm usually 6.5. I'm really happy when I can get 7. And so I mean, I think that's why there's this. So many people, it's they're in a lifestyle choice or a habit or pattern that has put them in a volatile situation with their testosterone, rather than they're actually deficient.
Yeah. There's a little bro science saying too. I think there is actually science to back it though, that every hour of sleep you get before midnight is twice as much growth hormone and twice as much testosterone. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some studies that back obviously more sleep is more growth hormone, more testosterone. So I think timing again, I don't
think it has anything to do with midnight.
Yeah, timing.
You get more sleep if you go to bed earlier. Yeah. So.
And just more sleep is more recovery, is more potential for your body to get into that those cycles to release those hormones anyway. So, okay, so we talked a little bit about tests. Let's talk about, I guess, some anabolic stuff. Yeah. And then we'll talk about some of the other ones. What you got on steroid usage as a whole? Pros, cons.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of pros, a lot of visible pros, right? A lot of visible cons, but not as many visible cons. You don't see your left ventricle get bigger and cause a heart attack. Sure. You don't see things like high blood pressure. Well, actually you do. You'll start getting a little red. Yeah. Right. I think steroids have a time and they have a place, and that place is competitive elite level sports and bodybuilding. I'll tell you right now, every dude in the NFL is choosing something. Every single one. I know the guy who sold SARMs to Patrick Mahomes. That's just how it is. Yeah. If you want to get to that level, you have to be enhanced, but you also have to be able to pass a drug test.
Yeah.
So, they obviously have their downsides. They have their upsides. I think you should try to be natural for as long as possible, and be healthy, right? Yeah. You get one body to glorify God with. Don't kill it off in your 35s. When you're 30, by the time you're 35,
I think there's so much more room in the natural space than people think.
Yeah.
Right. And again, it's like, like you said, don't be 23 and like, I want to look like C-Bum by I'm 25 just to, when you're 40, you look like you've never picked up a weight in your life.
Yeah.
Like this thing is still like, your life is still the thing you're attached to, and so I always say like the longevity side for me, like I still want to run when I'm 60.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like, I'm happy to live this life I live.
Exactly.
Sure, there are temptations or appeals. Like, of course there are, but like there's also major risks, cons, potential disruptors for me that make it like a non-starter for me. I just couldn't. I always say that if I can't stomach the potential risks, then it's like a no-go in anything in life, whether that's a relationship, a business, like if the risks feel too much to me, it's not worth pursuing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I view it. Cause I know I wouldn't let go of running to even do a bodybuilding show, let alone like, okay, so well then why do I need to get on gear at all? Like there's no benefit for me.
Yeah. That's fair. I know for me, I want to step on stage at some point, at least naturally, right? Anything after that, whether it's enhanced or not, is going to be dependent on how that prep goes.
Sure.
Another thing would be, I want to wait till I'm 25, frontal lobe development, right?
Yeah.
And then also kids, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, there is a low risk, like the risk for infertility and sterility is super, super, super low, but there's still a risk.
Yep.
And I am the only person in my family that can pass on the last name.
Yeah, I feel that.
So, yikes.
I get it, yeah.
Right? There's got to be a boy. And for some weird reason, there's just a trend of people on anabolics having daughters. Chris Bumstead, Ronnie Coleman didn't have a single son. Arnold got lucky. Labrada got lucky.
He had two boys, right?
Yeah. But you see it all the time is they're just popping daughters.
I wonder if that's correlated or related to the gear or not.
Or it's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Who knows?
We're people, we just pattern match, but yeah, interesting. What do you think of the rise of non-androgenous muscle building drugs?
I think that is going to completely change the culture of the fitness industry because people are going to be able to get in shape without doing anything.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're kind of seeing a little bit of it already with
semaglutide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so when you combine semaglutide with these drugs like trevogrumab or garetosmab, which are these activin A inhibitors and myostatin inhibitors that are being developed, right? They're actually antibodies, not peptides. But with these drugs, people are going to be putting on muscle without touching weights, right? While losing fat. Like to put this into human perspective, you've got two twins, right? Both 200 pounds, 20% body fat. After 5 months, one of them dropped down to like 191 pounds and 16.5% body fat, right? That was the natty monkey. And then the juiced monkey got down to 186, I believe, or 181 and 6.5% body fat without touching a weight, right? Very little dietary intervention, if at all. So what you're going to see is people are getting jacked and shredded from their couch.
That's wild.
What you're also going to see is people are going to the gym more, getting even more results with way less side effects than you would with, say, D-ball, tren. I think a lot of these anabolic androgynous steroids are going to be irrelevant. A thing of the past. People are going to be taking TRT and peptides, antibodies, things like that, antigens. It's going to be insane. Absolutely insane.
Do you think we'll get to a point where the best physiques are no longer built in the gym, but kind of from pharmaceutical capacity? No.
I think the best physiques are going to be still built in the gym, right? But I think the average, the general average for what a good physique is going to go up, right? Because you have more people just kind of sitting around on their butts taking these drugs, looking a little bit better. They get in the gym, they're going to look even better. I don't think these drugs are going to make the gym unnecessary. To look okay and in shape, yeah. But for like a gym bro, in shape is different than for an average person. You're going to have more like average in shape and more gym bro in shape, but it's not going to be a substitute for training.
Yeah. People are still going to have to get in the gym and lift weight, but it'll be a combination of those things.
Yeah, it's going to be just like steroids, but without the side effects. And it's going to motivate a lot of people to get into the gym.
I think that's to me, another component of that I'm seeing holistically is just in the food space. As we're seeing better food options become prevalent. And again, I'm not one to say like processed food is horrible. Again, I think its initial purpose was to stop starvation, right? Yeah. And that was the goal, right? Yeah, we did that. We found out we could make really cheap, really easily accessible, storable food sources with some science, right? Yeah. And again, now is it also then great for you? And does it do great things for your metabolic health? Okay, maybe not. But again, if the goal was starve or not, like that was the goal, solve that problem. So I think, but now we're in a point where it's like, okay, how can we make better, more metabolically beneficial foods that mirror more natural substances? And then how can we make that vastly readily available with some, obviously, I'd rather take a little bit of cut in shelf life to get better overall quality of food. And I think so that times what we're moving to pharmaceutically, so as we push forward in the next decade or so, I think people are just going to holistically be more healthy, just from both avenues. So
better diets, less obesity too.
Yeah.
Right. People are just going to start to live longer.
Yeah. Don't know if that's a good thing or not, but we'll see.
They're working on anti-aging drugs too.
Yeah.
They're getting pretty close apparently as well. There's a drug that's towards the end of development that will let you generate teeth.
That's crazy.
So you can let's say your two front teeth get pulled, you can regrow them. It's gonna be that's gonna be freaky.
I'm not big on that. I think I make the argument to people. A lot of people think they want something, right? A lot of people think they want to live longer than they do. It's really, you want a quality life. Yeah. Whether that's made up of 40 years or 80.
Yeah. Quality life, not quantity life.
Exactly. Yeah. And so when people say, oh, that person died at 40, it's like, yeah, but did they do everything they wanted to do in life? Mm-hmm. Because you lived to 80, but you gave up on life when you were 26. Yeah. What kind of life did you live anyway? Yeah. Like part of what really makes life valuable is like that you are going to die one day, that this will end. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so that you have to try and make the most of the time you have and not squander it, because it can easily go and just be that. And you can just let the time go by. And still one day your time will come. So I think, again, like the idea of living longer really isn't the right. People say they want to live longer, but it's like, would making the day any longer make people accomplish more in a day? It's like, no, you just need to learn to use your time better. Yeah. Right? So people are like, oh, I want a longer life. It's like, no, you want a more meaningful life. You don't even know what you want in the process there. So anyway, that's just my caveat on that. Do you think we'll ever see mainstream legal like muscle enhancers that are safe? I mean, I think you kind of covered that a little bit, but yeah.
I mean, we already have mainstream muscle enhancements that are legal. Look at the pro hormones back in the 90s, early 2000s. Look at SARMs like 4 years ago when they were everywhere. Yeah. Right. They're legal. Maybe not free of side effects, but they're legal.
They're legal.
I think you're going to see a lot of that. But over time, I mean, like the UK has already legalized anabolics. They're legal in Mexico. I think the US will follow eventually if they can find a way to
make money off of it.
Monetize it.
Yeah, exactly.
Monetize it, which if these drugs without side effects are released, I mean, that's a lot of money for the pharma industry. Yeah. Of course, they're going to let that be legalized. They're going to lobby as much as they can because everybody's going to want it.
Yeah. Yeah. Pharmaceuticals are going to be interesting. I mean, it's continuing to be interesting, but as it gets more, as it has more range of impact collectively, especially into fitness longevity, I think it's going to continue to grow and just be interesting to see what happens. Yeah. What's the biggest lie you think that influencers sell to, particularly like young men?
The biggest lie influencers sell to young men.
Fitness influencers, yeah.
That's a hard one because it's all kind of a lie, right? Instagram is angles, lighting, and pump, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the entirety of their physique, right? Even when I post, it's pump, angles, lighting. right? Because that's what you've got to do. For the likes, for the follows, for the clicks. That's just the state of social media. You don't post when you're depleted and flat and you look like crap that day. You don't post when, you fail a PR most of the time, right? Yeah. It's a highlight reel. A lot of these influencers kind of sell like, hey, take what I take, you'll look like me.
Yeah, that's the bro science. Right
yeah, kind of.
Do the same workouts as me and you'll look like this.
Yeah. And that's just, in reality, that's not the case. Genetics are different. Lifestyle is different. They're probably not natty, right? And so to an extent, I think lying about natural status has its place, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's almost like it gives you hope that you can look like that one day naturally. And so you keep striving for that unattainable goal and you end up with an like astounding physique. Just not quite that level. Yeah, sure. It's a little deceptive, but
yeah,
it's for a good reason.
Yeah. Yeah. If you were to give some advice to like some 16-year-old guys who were just kind of started lifting, what would you, if you could like minute elevator pitch it, key things to, I'm just starting I'm 16. I decided, hey, I don't like how I look. I want to get a little fit. I want to get a little fit, whatever that is.
Okay. Train hard, eat a lot of protein, do your cardio, try to sleep 8 hours to 10 hours if you can every night, and be patient.
Yeah.
Be patient is the biggest one. But live life. Don't worry about putting everything in your life towards getting as jacked as possible, because being jacked should complement your life, not be your life.
Yeah.
And so just have fun with it, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
Be patient.
Agreed. How much do you think strength is mental versus physical?
Strength.
Outside of science, just maybe in the sense of in training, but then also just like strength to be able to endure kind of life's burdens. Is that more mental or physical?
In training, I would say pretty physical, right?
Yeah.
In life, it's just mental, right? Yeah. Getting meal prepping every week, doing your cardio is very mental. For some people that don't enjoy training, it's even harder mentally because I don't want to go, I don't want to, and so like me personally, like I struggle to take a rest day. I love training.
Yeah.
But I can see how, if you don't want to train, you've got to get your ass up. You've got to find a way to get that mental strength to go to the gym until it becomes discipline.
Yeah.
And so that's why I believe it's a lot of build the discipline rather than just coasting on motivation, because motivation will run out, discipline won't.
Yeah. I had a good talk with my buddy who's a IFBB pro bodybuilder. We had an interesting conversation on the idea of discipline versus motivation. Mm-hmm. And we argued that they're kind of the same thing. It's just sold as discipline. But it's like, it's easy to have discipline when you're chasing. Like he gave the example. He's like, when I was pursuing my pro card, it was easy to call that discipline, but really that was motivation towards a goal. Like I wanted that thing.
Yeah.
So like, maybe Some days I didn't want to go to the gym. I wasn't super motivated to lift heavy, but like I still was motivated. I had a higher motivation of I want to be a pro.
Yeah.
And so he was like, he makes the argument that he says, I think a lot of people sell the idea of discipline. That's just you have something that motivates you even more. And, but I agree with you on the same thing. Like whatever form of discipline you build, it's necessary, because motivation is just like any other feeling. It will fade.
Yeah.
You're sad. Okay. That'll go away. You're happy. It'll go away. You're motivated. It'll go away.
I think your buddy's got a good point. It's a lot easier to be disciplined when you're motivated, right? When you have a form of motivation.
Yeah.
And so I guess my rebuttal to that would be, why are you doing it if you don't have a reason to?
Yeah.
Right? If you don't have a reason to get into the gym,
I think most people don't know themselves that deeply to even answer that question.
Yeah.
Let alone to ask it.
Yeah. are you going to the gym to pick up girls? Well, once you pick up girls, you're going to stop going to the gym, right? Mm-hmm. Are you going to the gym because you want an IFBB Pro card and you love to train? Well, that's going to make it a lot easier for you to stay in the gym for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Are you just trying to get healthy? If you're trying to get healthy, you're going to go and get healthy, and then you're just going to try to stay healthy, right? So you're going to fall off a little bit, but not so far that you go back to being extremely obese or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Once that motivation runs out, it's just a different game.
Yeah.
You have to have something that you're trying to accomplish to muster up that strength and discipline. So
what keeps you motivated when you're either exhausted or not feeling it? What do you lean on?
I didn't get this far for no reason, right? If I grew up very much like I only got praised if I did something well, right? Mm-hmm. German family, moved to the US in 2008, yada, yada, yada. And so European parents, specifically my mom, is very like, if there's no reason to be praised, what is there to tell you good job for, right? Yeah. And so there's a lot of intrinsic motivation of I need to accomplish something, right? I need to achieve something, and do something with my life that's not just above average, but great. And then obviously everything I do needs to glorify God, right? So if I'm on the couch, like hypothetically, and like, oh man, I don't want to go hit legs, is that lack of discipline glorifying God? Because God calls us to be disciplined, right? Mm-hmm. So, and you've got to get up, you've got to go hit legs. All right, let's do it. This is nothing compared to what Jesus did on that cross, right? And so when you put things or for me at least, when I put things into a perspective of it's not that bad, just get up and do it.
Yeah.
Things a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think perspective is a huge component to taking action on anything.
Yeah.
Right. And whether it's looking at it from the sense you do with your faith, or realizing that people have done more than you're doing with less at their disposal.
Yeah.
Right? They've had less and done more.
Yep.
Right. And so with whatever you can to reframe your perspective, to realize that you're in a much more advantageous environment than people who've done significantly more than you.
Jay Cutler got his pro card and Olympia wins with bro science.
Yeah.
And
a relentless desire to be the best.
Exactly. What do we have? So what should we be able to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think something you touched on there is, the only feeling the need to accept or take praise for something that needs it, or that is, high enough in regard to say, hey, you're now worthy of said praise. I come from a similar environment in that way. Didn't really relish in praise or
participation trophies.
Yeah. And, as I have young children, I'm not for it. Yeah. And I don't see, I think, again, too high of a threshold for praise can generate a lot of negatives.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because you're never going to get to the really big accomplishments if you can't celebrate the wins that are along the way.
Yeah.
Right? And if the threshold of a win is a win that's only a 10, well, like every other win that's not a 10 is then nothing to you.
Yeah.
Right. So again, there's like balance loosely to things. But again, I think if you're just told, hey, you're the greatest, you're the best for every little thing you do, well, then like, again, you've minimized the need or the want for someone to ever pursue anything else.
For me, it was a very like, if you're not first, you're last, right? Like there was never a good job for second or third place. Yeah. There was either first or exactly. You could have been better.
Yeah.
And I see it in my life all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. I'm someone who's recovering. Still, I think it still plagues a big portion of my existence today, where it's like, people are like, oh, your physique's great. I'm like, it's okay.
Could be better.
Yeah. That's literally like, no matter what I do, I always think like, even if it's, and the mind fuck here for anyone is like, even if you do win, imagine you win, whatever the thing is you win. And the first thing on your thought is like, but could it have been better? Like, yeah, I got the thing that I said I wanted. I wanted to win at this thing. And now then, though I've done that, the first thoughts that I have are still like, could I have done better than that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I waste any time or potential, or could I have won by more, or did, and
imagine you win the Olympia, right? You just beat Sebum on stage if he hadn't retired, and you think to yourself, man, I could have been a little bit more conditioned.
Yeah.
It like, and all of a sudden that win doesn't mean as much to you anymore because it's, oh, well, I could have done better.
Yeah. You've immediately minimized it.
Yeah.
By the thought of what else could I have done. And yeah, I think that's a slippery slope to start walking up in your life. And again, I think it's rooted in something, like you said, similar to the way you grow up and childhood trauma or whatever, as much as it's thrown around today. I mean, it's something I still at 30 years old fight every day. The am I good enough, or will I ever be good enough, or will any amount of money I make or weight I lift or fast I run, will any of that ever be actually enough for me, let alone for anyone else? Yeah. Right. And so it's trying to like go into the deeper parts of your mind and heart and really like untangle that mess. Yeah. Right. And it's not your fault that it's there, but it's your job to manage it now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I hit 375 on bench the other day for the first time in my life. First all-time PR I've had in over a year. I would say actually a year and a half. And my thought was, oh dude, that's so sick. It's my first PR in like over a year and a half. Could I have done more?
Yeah.
Now I still got the little high of, hitting that PR, but there was still the little nagging in my head of
wondering.
I could have done 380.
Yeah.
But could I have done 385? Right.
I think it's okay to wonder, like, was there more to be had there? I don't think that's bad, but I think when you immediately like minimize the accomplishment or discredit it entirely.
Yeah.
Right. I think, the curiosity for, I made this much money. Could I make more than that? Like, that's good. But like, but you go like, oh, hey, like you just got promoted, you just got a raise. You're like, yeah, but like, need to make more. Like you don't even acknowledge, you take no time to give yourself that credit and relish in the work that you did to get to that point. Right.
Well, what if I had, what if I had been more dialed in? Could I have hit 405 by now? Right.
Stuff like that. Right. Yeah. Where you immediately like, just kind of disassociate from it entirely. It's like, I did that thing, but it doesn't matter.
I have that at times, not as much right now, because I've started to realize that it's an issue. But from time to time, it'll still creep its way back in.
Yeah. If you could share like a quote or a piece of advice with anyone, what would you want to leave them with?
Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron as one sharpens another. Surround yourself with people who will build you up and be a person that builds them up as well. Right? You rub their elbows, they rub yours.
Yeah.
Somebody who will build your relationship with God and both of you bring each other closer. That's probably one of the most important things in life. Yeah. If it wasn't for one of my really good gym bros, shout out Dylan. He's getting married in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. 2 weeks. I'm his best man. And he is the iron that sharpened me, as I am the iron that sharpened him. And I think it's really important to have a close friend like that you can be vulnerable with, open with, and constantly push, that is also constantly pushing you to achieve more, do more, be more locked in.
Yeah.
Because sometimes as humans, we fail, right? We fall short. And so having somebody that checks you and tells you, hey man, you can't be slacking.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have.
Yeah. I think that's what I like to call the definition of a real friend. Not someone who will necessarily tell you how good you're doing, but tell you, hey, like you're fucking up right now.
Yeah.
You said you wanted this thing. Your behavior doesn't align with that right now. And I care about you enough to tell you, hey, like you're not doing the things you said you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't really like, because we're kind of, we have this ability to not see it in ourselves. Right.
Yeah.
But when someone else is looking at you and they care about you and they can hold you accountable in that way, it's a beautiful thing.
One thing I've noticed is really hard to find is friends who don't get jealous. When all of a sudden you're doing better than they are, they start to...
You're young. That's still kind of common. I mean, and there's, to some extent, I can tell you in my experience in life, I mean, some people will never grow up and change.
Yeah.
Jealousy and envy just are something they will hold on to for their entire life. But if you are not someone who is that way, it will be really hard to attract people who are that way. So if you're someone who is willing to, hey, and if someone's doing better than you, you're the first to cheer and the first to give compliments and praise, like, and there's never envy for you.
Yeah.
Naturally, you will then attract those similar types of people.
Yeah.
I can say holistically, though, like the times.
It's hard in college, though.
No, it is. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, because
college is rough.
Yeah, and again, because when everyone's still so young and their perspective, like you're all in a very limited perspective bubble.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're all still so young. Have some people, yes, have experienced more of life, but on average, not many people have hardly experienced anything. So
you've also got, like, I feel like you've got two types of people in college. You've got the people who look forward to going out and partying on the weekends, and you've got the people who are looking forward to the empty gym on the weekends because everybody's out partying.
Yeah.
And if you make friends with people who are partying, right, they're going to be envious of you because you're in the gym while they're out partying. You're growing, you're progressing, maybe you're working on a business while they are out getting blasted.
Yeah, because you're a mirror of everything that they don't want to do.
Yeah, exactly. You are a mirror of what they are not and what they could be. And it nags at them in their head. They get jealous. And
as like a good therapist, I'm a fan of answer the question of, like, how do you, if you're outgrowing people, how do you get rid of them? It says you don't have to. They'll get rid of you.
Yep.
Because again, like you're consistently holding up that mirror to them. If this is what you could be doing, this is how good your life could be. This is how fit you could be if you were. This is what you could look like if you weren't eating like shit all the time. This is how good your relationships could be if you worked through those hard things. And no one wants, no matter anyone, no matter who you are, no one wants to have that constantly held up to them.
My girlfriend had a really, really bad friend when we first started dating, and I almost called it because of that friend being such a horrible influence.
Yeah.
And what we found is that this friend was very jealous and envious of what Angie had, which was a stable relationship that wasn't a constant toxic roller coaster.
Yeah.
And on top of that, this chick was like bipolar. She
she
needed to be medicated, but she didn't want to take her meds.
Yeah.
And but she cut Angie out rather than Angie needing to cut her out. Just over time.
Usually what happens.
Yeah.
For the quote I will give today is, what a beauty it is to struggle in a pursuit of your own choosing. What a beauty is it to struggle in a pursuit of your own choosing. Whether you're pursuing to run an Olympic qualifying marathon or to just be more fit or to lose weight or to have a healthy relationship, the fact that you get to struggle in that pursuit that you chose. It's easy to be like, oh, this is hard. It's like, yeah, but it's the one you chose.
Yeah. At least it's something you want to pursue.
Yeah. Rather than, because life is going to be hard regardless. And there'll be times where life shits on you or gets inconvenient or presents you with a struggle not of your choosing. Yeah. Right. So in perspective, like you chose this thing and it's hard sometimes. Yeah. That's a blessing. You need to be appreciative of that because it's going to be hard sometimes and it's not going to be one of your choosing.
Yeah.
So, well, man, I really enjoyed it.
I did too.
It was good to have you on. And to anyone who's still listening, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you enjoy it.